Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 215. Today I'm going to talk about Mars Needs Mechanics. This was a game that was on Kickstarter maybe a year ago, maybe less. It is a sort of a pure economic game set in a Victorian era steampunk theme. Basically what players are going to be doing is manipulating a market of these different goods to build a rocket ship and all kinds of different contraptions. It plays 2 to 4 players. It plays in about 45 minutes according to the box. Definitely you can get this done under an hour. Once you get a game under your belt, you can just kind of go and play very quickly. So let me show you how it works and I'll come back and tell you what I think. Okay, I've got the game set up here. You got sort of your main board. This is going to be your market board. You've got some cool money here. Basically you've got these cogs, and these big ones here are 10, these silver ones here are 5, and then these little bitty ones here are worth 1. So you're going to start the game with 30 bucks or 30 cogs. Each player is going to get some different tokens here in the color of their choice, and then each player is going to get 2 of these scrap cards. Consider these sort of like wild cards here. So everybody's going to get 2 of these for the duration of the entire game, and then we are going to set out 8 of these cards here, and these match the different components here that you see on the market. So you've got sort of a value track here. You can see it goes from 1 up to 9. All of them going to start on 5 there in the middle, and then you also have tokens here that represent the different components on this track, and these are randomly put out to start the game. And like I said, we deal 8 of these out. So you've got all kinds of different sort of steampunky kind of things. You've got gears, ether tubes, wire, piping, all kinds of cool metally looking stuff. So you're going to put 8 of these out, and then depending on what kind of game you're playing, you're going to set out these different devices here that you can build. Now the game comes with a couple of setups, sort of ideal setups. There's like a beginner setup, and then, but it also tells you you could like play with all 8 if you wanted, or just kind of customize. And these are going to change up how you play the game, and I'll talk a little bit more about how these work in a second. But you're going to set out basically 4 of these in a game. So turns are very simple. Let's just move the board up here like so, and I'll just take the top 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to put these out here. So on your turn, you basically have one main option that you can do, and then a optional sort of thing that you can do. So you can either buy one of these components or pass. Now the price, let's say I wanted to buy one of these 3 gears that got dealt out here. The price obviously is going to be 5 to start the game. Now these markers here will move up and down, and I'll explain how it does that in a second. But if it, obviously it was on the 6, it would cost 6. So you can buy one of these or you can pass. When you buy one of these, you're going to take them into your hand along with the scrap that you may have in your hand. So let's say I bought maybe 2 gears and I got some piping here like so. So this is in my hand, and maybe another turn comes along and I choose to pass. And then if the other players all pass in succession, then that's going to end the round. The other way that that round will end is once all of these are bought up, then we'll have a little bit of end of round selling and cleanup, and then you're going to deal off 8 more cards. And you're going to play the game basically until this deck runs out. So once you deal out, and you maybe have, in the last round it might work out that you only have like 5 cards left. Well, that's going to be the last round. You have a little bit of a different scoring at the end of that round, and then that'll be the end of the game. So basically you just play through the whole deck. Now in addition to buying a good or passing, you can optionally build up some of these different contraptions here. Now you can see on the bottom of these contraptions they have 2 or sometimes more goods, and you can basically take cards out of your hand, lay them in front of you, and then build the goods. So if we wanted to build this difference engine here, and you can see it takes these 2 goods here, basically I would take a piping and a gear, lay that in front of me, and then I would go ahead and put one of my tokens on here. So if I was the green player, I could go ahead and mark that I've built this. Now you can only ever usually build one of these contraptions. Now other players can come along and they can build contraptions, and you can build the same contraption as the other players. And the other option that you can use, you can actually break down a contraption. So in addition to buying or passing, you can break down and or build a contraption. Now there's some funky ones in here. Here it is. So this is the automation, or automaton I should say. And you can see this actually costs 1 of every kind of good. But this is a big daddy here. If you play with this one, I wouldn't recommend playing with this one in your first game, but after that I really like the game when you play with that. It adds a little bit of drama to the buying and selling. I'll talk about that later. But see, you can build him, and see, at the end of the game, you're going to receive a 40 cog bonus. And that is basically how you win the game. You're going to play the game all the way through. Whoever has the most cogs at the end is going to win. And sometimes, like in this case, you're going to get a little bit bonus cogs. Well, how do you make cogs? All we've talked about now is buying these. Well, what you can do is if you have a set, which basically means 3 or more of a particular good, you can lay them down and then sell them as a set. Now, this is where the scrap cards come into play. Is if I wanted to, you know, add and make a sort of a pair I have act as a set, I can sell them. Now you're going to get market value for these, except in the terms of the scrap. You're not going to get any money from the scrap, but it's going to help you complete a set so that you could sell a pair. So that's basically the flow of the game. You're going to buy or pass, you're going to optionally build these, and then at the end of the round, you're going to adjust these prices here and then sell, and then you're going to go on to the next round. So how do these prices get adjusted? This is kind of one of the main components of the game. Well, every time a particular good is purchased, you're going to take its matching token here. So let's say somebody had just purchased a magnet. You're going to take the token here and then move it to the front of the line. And let's say somebody comes along here, purchases this set of gears here, it's going to move to the front. Now if somebody had purchased the gears and they were in front, they're just going to stay where they're at. So let's say somebody purchased the ether tube and then purchased the gears again, because remember we had a lot of gears. And let's say we purchased the magnet again. So that's going to move to the front. So you're going to take, and let's say this is the end of the round. Everybody's either passed or we've bought all the cards. And then you're going to basically slide everything back down. So you're going to take these and slide them down here. And you can see the bottom 3 have a minus modifier. So in this case, we're going to reduce the value of these 3 goods. So in this case, the whatever that thing is, and then this blue thing, and then the lenses here. Those are all going to drop down. This middle one here, in this case the wire, he's going to land here on the 0, and the rest of these are going to drop down into the +1. So these 3 here will move up to 6. So after you've modified the values here, then this is the point when you can sell and possibly make some money, or possibly hold your cards to a later round. And then you pass this awesome first player rocket ship to the player on your left, and he'll be the first one to, you know, either buy or pass. Now it's important to note that on the last round, you're not going to modify anything in a negative way. Only those that ended up being positive at the top of the row there, those are going to modify positively, and then you can sell again. And that is pretty much the game. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the overview. On the surface, this game looks really simple. Basically, you buy a card, and then based on the order that people buy certain commodities, their value is going to go up or stay the same or go down just by 1. Now there's 2 sort of key things that aren't going to be apparent, I think, from just a rules explanation there. And that is, one is passing. Now passing is very vital in this sense to, it's almost like playing chicken in a way, because if you pass, then everybody else passes, then the round's going to end. So maybe you don't necessarily want it to end too early, but maybe you want to sort of put the onus on somebody else to purchase a card, so then you can come in after them, purchase the card that you want, and then, you know, leap ahead to the front of the stack. Now this is going to vary greatly based on how those cards are dealt out. So if you get a whole lot of cogs or gears or whatever, I'm sorry, in the beginning, then you know they're not going to come up a whole lot later. So it's probably not a good idea to kind of invest in them early, because their price is going to end up going down unless you're trying to make a quick buck, which in that case it's good. So you kind of have to sort of gauge the market that way, and it's going to vary based on passing. Because remember, if everybody passes, the round's going to end, and so we're going to, you know, sit and then deal back up to 8 cards. And one thing that I didn't mention was that if 2 rounds go by without anybody purchasing anything, then the game will actually end. Now I haven't seen that happen, but I have seen actually 1 round go by where nobody purchased anything. We all just passed and didn't really expect it to happen. So that was kind of interesting. So I don't know that it would happen, but I think it could, you know. So that's kind of an interesting thing that I haven't really explored. You know, it's that I think it would be difficult. You need kind of all the players to sort of telepathically agree to end the game, and all, you know, have it be ideal for them to end the game. So the whole passing and buying thing is interesting in that order of, you know, how the commodities come up. Now the other thing that is really interesting about it, and shouldn't be undersold, is the you know, the contraptions that you can build. And I think there's a total of, let me see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10 different ones, and normally you're only going to play with 4. So there's a lot of different combinations of how those work. And like I said, you have the automaton. That's going to give you $40 40-point bonus at the end of the game. But once you build that, you can't break it down. And it costs 1 of everything. But that's interesting because, you know, you're trying to collect sets, and you're going to sometimes end up with cards you didn't really want because, you know, somebody else kind of, you know, drove the price down, or they sold them and they're getting into it, so, you know, you're kind of competing that way, and the price is going up because everybody's in it. So it just, the market situation isn't going to work out that you want every card. There's going to be certain cards you're going to go after, try to buy low, sell high, but then you still want to kind of play with those other cards. So adding that sort of paradoxical goal in there of the automaton of having just one of each versus having, you know, a bunch of one is very, very interesting. And there's other effects of these things. So you can like change the price on the market board. You can disable other of the other contraptions so that you can't, you know, other people can't use them or they don't work. And there's just a lot of different ones in there that you can kind of mix and match and play around with. So that really is kind of interesting part of the game, especially because you can kind of interchange and use those at different times. Like one that I really enjoy is that you can sell your sets during the round instead of waiting until the end of the round. So that makes it kind of interesting to kind of change up and get some quick cash to maybe sort of shift gears and kind of get into a different market, so to speak. So the cool thing about this is it's very straightforward and somewhat simple in a way. But like I was talking about earlier with the passing and the different mechanisms that you can build, there is some nice meat to chew on here, but it only plays in 45 minutes, which is kind of astounding because usually these kind of games, you know, with the economics and stuff, they can go on a little bit longer. So this one has sort of a Knizia flavor where you can kind of play like Medici or Ra in an hour or less. So I think this kind of feels not an auction game, but it's definitely, you know, price manipulation game, which a lot of those auction games kind of are. So I think if you're into that kind of game, this is definitely one to give a look and definitely give it a couple of plays because, frankly, the first setup I didn't really enjoy with the way those different contraptions, the beginner setup. They were just a little bit too sterile, I felt. And so, but it was still, those weren't interesting. The market part of the game was very interesting still with just that beginner setup. But now you throw in some of the disabling, the automaton, then it really kind of spices it up, and then, you know, that's where the replay value is going to come. And, you know, now at this point I kind of want to go back to that first setup and see maybe it was a little too subtle for me in that way. So definitely a nice, you know, good subtle market manipulation game of very sort of, you know, exacting moves that need to be, you know, precise. So, but it's also short. So sometimes those long ones that you have to be precise are a little bit of a downer because if you screw up, oh, I've got another hour and a half to play, you know. But this one is like, I screwed up. Well, there's only 15 minutes left. But, you know, it was my mistake, so I like that. I like that getting punched in the face sometimes by myself, but not sitting there for an hour and a half after I've done it. So anyway, that's Mars Needs Mechanics. I would definitely take a look at this. Thanks.